Helen Stringer is the executive director of Oasis. All of us know her and love her. Like I said, she's covering for Joshua Hyde, who is supposed to be doing the featured speaker slot this afternoon, but could not make it because he was sick. So she put this all together last night. And so she said, please excuse her if it seems a little disorganized. She's going to be talking about secular family values, and I'm just going to let her take it from here.
All right, make sure I don't go over on time here. So yes, I normally, actually, this may be sad on my end, but I usually spend a lot of time putting my talks together. It's like this new obsession where I try really hard. I'm an A for effort kind of person. So the amount of time that I put into this is drastically different than any others, but I wasn't able to ruminate on it and think about it forever, so that kind of is helpful. I will say that if this really sucks, it's because it took me a couple hours to write. If it's amazing, I do accept small parades and cookie cakes, so, just thought I'd put that out there, just to kind of, build in there. So, about a decade ago, my husband and I were sitting in church, and they had one of the elders come up, and he had this clipboard. He had a petition, and he was really, really passionate about this petition, and it was, I don't remember what network it was, but it was to make sure that a particular TV show did not get aired. And the reason why this TV show was so bad was because it would show two men loving each other. And not only that, it would show them loving each other, and they would have a child. I mean, such apostasy, it's just horrible. And I remember even looking at Larry at that time. I mean, this was a decade ago. We were like, this is just ridiculous. This is stupid. We passed it on, and we just kind of blew it off. Anyone can guess what that show was? Because it's very popular now, and I think it's... No, that's way long ago. How old do you think I am? Mine too. I don't even know if I watched that one. Modern Family. So if you didn't know, there were a lot of Christians out there trying to make sure that this show didn't get on the air, and made it end up being this huge hit, and a wonderful, wonderful illustration of what a same-sex couple relationship can have, and then how wonderful parents they can be as well. But I mention this because I think we often find that if you just mention family values, people kind of assume that when you say family values, you mean Christian, godly, or something like that. He's a musician. I don't know why he said this, but this popped up in all of my searches. Wes Borland said, real family values have gone down the drain in modern families. Such a travesty, isn't it? So here we are now in our culture where you say family values, we assume godly Christian values. They're pretty much synonymous. So when I say secular family values, a lot of people are like, what? You can't put those two together. That's what? That doesn't make any sense. But I'm here to tell you that it makes absolute sense, and I'm sure you all can agree, because we're probably all on a general same page of agreeing that just because you don't do religion doesn't mean that you don't have morals. It's mind-blowing, I know. But I'm pretty sure all of us here have some level of really great morality. We're not all killing each other right now. We're sitting nicely in chairs, so we've started in a good place right there. We did just dance, so it was pretty slightly racy. So when she said grinding, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to have to tell people to do? But it's okay. I have some ex-fundamentalist, background, so I'm okay. I'm glad I was not up here. I did not volunteer for a very good reason. So what I want to, when I thought about what am I going to do with this, I'm like, let's just go to Google. I'm going to Google family values. Nothing else, just family values. And of course, Google never disappoints. One of the first things that popped up was this beautiful image. So we have faith, family values. We have ancient torture device. And we have the elephant, which is necessary because conservatives and values, they go hand in hand. I mean, they wrote the book on it. And then, of course, we have a male and a female family representing, and they have a child, because that's what you do, you procreate. And so I thought this was a pretty ideal image of kind of what we tend to see in our culture, especially in the U.S. today. And then they also told me that in the news, Jeb Bush is a family values man. And so I was really glad, I was really concerned. I didn't know if he was into family values, but it's okay, because I know you all are really into Jeb Bush. So he's a family values man. So it was how Google immediately just equated just that family values. I didn't put Christian, I didn't put anything else in there. I was logged out of my personal Gmail account, and Google does track what you do, and so they cater your searches with that. So I tried to log out of everything as best as I could. I'm sure the Google God was still following me, but this is kind of stuff that popped up. So at first I thought, maybe I'll go to Focus on the Family, go to their website. I bet they have like a list of these are our values. I was a little disappointed, maybe I was a little ignorant, because they didn't do that. Basically, it's political mandates like, sanctity of life and marriage between, just a man and a woman. They didn't have this list of, be compassionate, respectful. That's kind of what I was looking for and expecting to see. Focus on the Family was disappointing. So instead, I thought, okay, well, I'll just kind of use what I recall and kind of my observations in culture. Now, I'm going to share some of what I would say are some common godly family values. Now, in no shape or form am I making a blanket statement about what all Christians believe. There's so much diversity. I'm sure you've recognized that. There's so many different churches on every corner. There's a lot of diversity in thought with any religion, especially Christianity in our country today. And I am referring mainly to Christian values because this is kind of what you get really pushed upon in the U.S. today. And that's kind of the direction I'm going. It's going to be probably more evangelical. My background was evangelical. I wasn't Catholic. I wasn't into the liberal denominations, really. So just know I'm fully aware that not every Christian holds some of these dominant beliefs that I'm going to talk about. And I thought a good place to start was to look at what do people think family values are today. And of course, there's going to be variety within that. But we'll start there, and then I might give my little opinion here and there on what kind of a secular perspective would be, or how we may not have any perspective on such beliefs at all. When I went down this road, I realized real fast this is a huge topic. So I am just going to grace the surface of any of this. In reality, I think I could make like multiple talks out of this. So there are going to be so many things unsaid. Just know that I'm in pain too, because I'm sure I'll say things you want to have a thought on, and trust me, I'm up here wishing I had like 2 hours. Well, not really, because that's really too long to talk, but just know there's more thoughts. Believe it or not, there's more thoughts going on up here too. All right. All right, first one, and I will say that this I find is common, evangelical especially. In everything, God is first. In college, there was a really big push. This is the way you should live your life. Number 1, God first. In all things, seek God, seek His will, seek God first. 2 was family, and 3 then was yourself. So I always thought it was a little funny because when you start going into psychology or into human services, you real fast. Well, when you don't take care of yourself, it's kind of hard to take care of your family, and then when you're talking to yourself, or however you view that number 1 God thing, it's getting a little confusing. So I think that setup's not exactly the most ideal or the best. Another one that you may be more familiar with is the I am second. Has anyone seen the I am second? It was really a big push by, and I forget their names, the duck caller people who have their show? Duck Dynasty. Oh, I know you all watch it. You love it, right? Duck Dynasty used to be their poster child for it. When I went on their website, they're no longer the poster child. Maybe they wised up because they've been saying some pretty fun, extreme things, which just makes our job as secular people a whole lot easier. But this I am second. So God is first, and you are second. So all things, is God first. And I went to this is the I am second's website. This is the first thing that popped up. And doing a lot of this research, I had so many chuckles. Like, I don't know who this is, but I noticed there was a common theme of whenever you see someone come from non-belief to being a Christian or saved, or you accept Jesus into your heart, the evangelical mindset, it's always this really bad thing. So this guy was into cocaine. My team writer found me in the bed with cocaine all over my face. That's bad. I mean, I don't get me wrong, it's really bad. But it was their first opening screen, as if all of us secular people are just doing cocaine and living in sin. I mean, we are living in sin to some extent, in their eyes. But there's an admit here too. Thinking this woman, you leave your pimp, you leave nothing. So we're all prostitutes, we're all sex workers, and we're all on the drugs. It's kind of like this, living the life. But there's like this notion that we're all just that wild and crazy. I've been a little disappointed, you guys. Not all of us are that. There are a few of you who are probably just that wild and crazy, but for the most part, we're all pretty normal and live very normal, average lives. So the second one, A common theme that we see in family values: you must be obedient. Now this does, of course, start with number one, God. Be obedient to God. However you hear that or read that within your Bible, or what version Bible you choose. I find it slightly concerning, and I do think I want my children to listen to me, but not because I'm lording over them and telling you must be obedient to me. This was one of the images that popped up in the Google search for family values. Ironically, family values, obedience. I'm not sure how it brings profit. This is where I probably should have, I went to school for this stuff, and I don't know what book of the Bible, maybe it didn't come from the Bible too, I don't know. But demanding that kind of obedience I find to be slightly concerning. Well, and back to the God first thing, I don't really know what our humanist, my humanist perspective would be that people are first. I care more about the tangible individuals that I see on a regular basis first and foremost. So instead of God first, it's like, well, I care about people first and foremost as a humanist. But from obedience-wise, we see also themes of obedience in worship music. So I came out of the more progressive evangelical big band worship stuff. So the really heavy, emotional, loud music, full, guitar, drum, and a lot of repetitive statements. This particular one, I will follow you. They have the little lyrics preview here. I will follow you. I'm wrapped up in you. I belong to you. It's like a really crazy, twisted relationship with someone who's obsessed with you. This one too. Lord, I come, I confess, bowing here I find my rest. Without you, I'll fall apart. You're the one that guides my heart. And I think you hit this overall theme of this obedience and submission and everything, within that. And I feel like on this end of it, now, it depends on the age. If you're talking about children versus adults is one thing. For children, I want my kids to understand why it's important to listen to adults. I tell my kids, well, part of it's a safety factor. My brain, believe it or not, is more developed than yours. So this is why, I'm trying to direct you. But I think demanding this obedience and this theme of that can be quite concerning. And this is a very common theme, and we'll revisit it here in a second, too. Another one, a traditional family. This is the one you're probably very familiar with. It's a traditional family, of course, being a husband and a wife, male and female. And then also within that, we're very familiar with that. I think we're all pretty much huge advocates for equal rights, full acceptance, not tolerance. We want acceptance of all individuals, no matter what your sexual orientation or what your relationship makeup may look like. And what I find more concerning with some of this, especially for the traditional family values, are the roles that men and women or partners should play. And I'm going to concentrate more on the men and women because that's their framework. You should be married, man and wife, to a male and a female. In college, I have this little picture here because this is what my house fully looks like. I forgot my apron today. I need to have one more child too. It's like you're supposed to have 2 to 3 children. And this is totally how Larry works. Where's your bow tie? So when I was in college, I went to a very conservative undergraduate school. Guys did not go on girls' dorm room floors except for during visitation time once a week, which is heavily supervised. So we had this night where the girls went and had their girl talk, and we had a panel. Guys did their thing too. Guys went and I think they all talked about how they wouldn't look at porn again, because that seemed to be and still is a lot of the focus. And I'm going to get there too on that one as well. But for the women, there were a ton. Everyone came out for this. When you're 18 to 22, you're your impressionable. It's a huge life transition too. And so they had a panel of some professors, a dean, some of the highly respectable women there. Keep in mind, about 50% of the people in this school were planning on going into ministry of some sort. And there was a lot of focus on marriage because, we go to school to find our husbands and then to get married and have children and yada, 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 because that's what you do. But there was this heavy focus on what you do within marriage. And of course, sex is still a major issue because everyone in the school is trying not to have sex. You can. They try to. The practice rooms are your really only options, but they put windows in. They really just mess it all up. I don't know from personal experience. So, okay. So we were having this, panel discussion, and 2 themes kept coming up. One theme was, as a woman, it is your job to make sure that you don't let yourself go. And they use that term a lot, don't let yourself go. And they were primarily referring to your physical appearance. That you need to stay fit and trim and pretty and cute so that your husband will stay interested in you. And then if you don't, if you don't wear makeup, they talked about the importance of getting fully dressed, yoga pants. I mean, I think some guys like yoga pants, but anyways, keeping your jammies on all day. No. I mean, I was almost thinking they wanted some 1950s garb. They also said, you need to wear makeup, do your hair, and I'll admit, as a woman, sometimes some of us, it makes us feel more up. There's psychological benefit to it, but they were really pushing this. Your appearance matters to your husband more than a lot of other factors that should be more important. And they basically said that, if you didn't take care of yourself, that then your husband would want to look at porn, because that's why he would want to look at porn, because he can't look at you, you're just not pretty enough anymore. And then, of course, he would have an affair. So there's always this ripple effect of, what does that say? It's your fault as the woman if your husband looks at porn, or if he leaves you or has an affair. I mean, horrible. And this is the kind of pressure that women in very traditional roles kind of have in these family, what I would consider, these are some of their family values. Another one was that you should always have sex with your husband anytime he wants it. And this was like very stressed. Go away, you're known. But, what they're not even thinking about is, once again, the theme that, well, maybe, why wouldn't the woman want to have sex? Because women don't ever, you still have that closed mentality. And then also, I don't think that is okay. I will say, I think that that's not a good way to go into marriage when you're dealing with sex within marriage. That, you should have to do whatever he says, whatever he wants. And I think there should obviously be much more different dynamics at play. And then once again, if you did not sleep with your husband every time he wanted to, he would, of course, want to watch porn, and he'd probably, have an affair. So, it's what Daryl Ray speaks about a lot, guilt and shame kind of factory starts to go into play. And a lot of us who have even left religion kind of still have some of those same memes playing in our head that we still see often. And it can be really hard to overcome. So men, you are not alone in dealing with this as well. And Daryl Ray's been really great at illuminating this for you guys as well. So yes, feminism has done a wonderful job of illuminating some of the challenges we have as women, and they're very real. We do have really far to go. But especially in Christian circles, men deal with guilt and shame just as much, I would say, as women do, but it's slightly different. Men are supposed to be the rock, you are supposed to be stoic, the backbone of the family, everything to, if your family starts to have issues, it's probably your fault, you didn't have good male God leadership. And so, living with that, you're supposed to be unbreakable. You're not supposed to be emotional, and this I'll propose here. Promise keepers. Who knows anyone know what promise keepers is? Oh, that's a lot of hands. Impressive. Okay. They were a lot of fun. That's a fun website to land on too. Let me tell you what. So this is their opening page. I don't know who Brad Stein is, but no whiners. Right from the get-go. Men, no, we don't whine, and they keep their promises. So, I thought this was really telling to the pressure that they put on men. So I am going to read this verbatim, and I'm going to read this dramatically. So Larry had to put up with me reading all this stuff from these websites yesterday. I'm like, I can't believe people think this. I can believe it, actually. All right. Society is crumbling around us. Keep in mind, this is from Promise Keepers. This is from their website. This is the second thing. You just scroll down. This is the second you see Brad Stein's pretty picture without whining, and then you see this. Marriages are collapsing. Pornography is winning the battle for men's minds, and our children are abandoning the church. But there is hope. Settle down that clapping. There is hope. When a child is the first to attend church, 3.5% of the families follow. When a wife or mom is first to attend church, 17% of the families follow. Oh, but when a dad or a husband is the first to attend church, 93% of the families follow. In the words of Dr. Tony Evans, I don't know who the heck that is, as the man goes, so the world goes. America and the world needs men with a renewed passion for obedience to God and His Word. So men, it's all your fault. So now that we've established that, I've learned really quickly, being on this end, that a lot of the stats that we see that come out of the Christian church or a lot of the other religions have no basis. They are, like, they'll dabble a little bit, they'll do little studies, but they're not, if you take research methods in grad school, they don't follow any of the research methods, It's not replicated. A lot of times they flub, their numbers are just not accurate. So this is probably a load of crap to some extent. If you are interested in stats that are scientifically sound, Phil Zuckerman's book, Living the Secular Life, has some really good stats about how one parent, the dad, maybe not being religious, how that does influence the likelihood that your child will be religious. Very interesting stuff, but I don't have time to go there today. So check out that book. Okay, this website was just too much fun, so I had to go here just for kicks. One of the things they'll offer you, so if you like to watch porn, you feel really bad about it because it's so bad. It's going to ruin your life. It according to them, this is according to them, decreases sexual satisfaction, lowers one's view of women, desensitizes the viewer to sexual cruelty. This is like where they think gay marriages leads to bestiality or something crazy. So they're offered this nice little program for $13.99 a month. You can download this program called Covenantize. So if you get the urge to look up Debbie Does Dallas, one more time, there's a panic button you can select. So you hit the panic button, I'm not kidding, shuts down your internet really fast, and then it emails your accountability partner. So it emails your friend to let them know that you were thinking about. Anyone familiar with the accountability partner thing within the churches? It's pretty strong, very helpful, but I think in this instance, so I don't know, it's weird. Okay, and then down here at the very bottom, it's really hard to read. They're offering you a free ebook, Your Brain on Porn. Well, I thought, they're not really neurologists or neuroscientists or anything like that, so maybe I'll just do my own research. And I realized real fast that this is your brain on porn. So, it's okay. I tell you, it's okay. So when it comes to family structures and these roles, I think it's going to vary greatly. I don't know if I have time to delve into this. How am I in time? I don't. So this book, I don't have time. Another big theme, when it comes to my secular perspective on what relationships should look like, it should be a negotiation. I think all of us have different relationship structures, the way my husband and I share responsibilities at home, the way we structure our work, the way we raise our children is all negotiated between the two of us. If your family looks like the 1950s picture and you chose for it to look like that intentionally, wonderful. That's great, and I think that is totally acceptable and to be celebrated. But if you didn't choose that, you didn't consciously decide to have that life, then I say it's a little concerning and that's limiting and also can be psychologically unhealthy. So, one more thing here, that when it comes to the traditional family, divorce is not an option. It's just not, I don't know why Jesus has a life raft behind his head. Is that the Catholic Jesus, maybe? Because once you have sex with someone, you're sealed to them forever. So, if you go to Focus on the Family's Facebook page, it's almost more sad. I went for images to use for this. This didn't come from them, believe it or not. And a lot of their memes or quotes have this thing to do with all their marriages are in crisis. How to save your struggling marriage, God first in your marriage, it was all very negative, broken, marriages, crumbling. It's because you don't have an out, you pretty much have to keep dealing with it, divorce sucks when children are involved. Divorce sucks in general. It's considered one of the most difficult life transitions that you can experience. However, I feel like as adults and thinking individuals, we can decide that for ourselves, and if something's not working anymore, it may be a better situation that you don't continue to live together. And if we can learn to be amicable adults where we can talk to one another and work out, what it's going to look like when things change. Imagine that, having, civil discourse when you really disagree on something and making, things work within whatever parameters you decide to do. I think saying a divorce is not an option is just not wise. People change. You have to be able to account for that. People are very unique individuals, and life is not exactly, what's the right word? Is it static or dynamic? Things change. Static. Okay, this one okay. So my next one, I hesitated going into, because I'm gonna go into spanking. Okay, so I wasn't going to, but when you start searching on the internet, there's every one of them, heavy theme of how you should spank your children. It was crazy. I couldn't believe how many of these Christian family value websites were pushing this idea. Now, I'm not saying if you spank your children, this is not a full judgment. This is just kind of my perspective, but I do want to read this. I'm going to read this for you because it's a little shocking, and I feel like we shouldn't be totally ignorant to what other people, how they're pushing our culture, in some directions here. So, this one website, and they said that they had been married for 38 years and been Christians, that whole time, so that gave them total validity to make these statements. They wrote, "Scripture is very clear about spanking. It's not going to kill your children. In fact, it's going to help them. The key is to spank in love and not in anger." That's almost kind of slightly twisted if you're if you want your Christian family to thrive, then you really need to consider spanking your children for direct disobedience. It will bring peace into your home. What? And will show your children that you love them enough to discipline them. They will probably even thank you for spanking someday. I was a really, really, really good kid. I really was. And I only got spanked, I remember, twice. And my parents, I think, are wonderful and amazing. And I now, as a parent, understand full well that sometimes you get really stressed out. You do stuff that you probably slightly regret. I do remember, I don't need to thank my dad. Still don't think I should have gotten spanked. I remember just clearly about all of it, To this day, as an adult, I remember very well. I would not thank him for it. It's just ridiculous. And this is the kind of stuff that I think is more common than you may be aware of, because we tend to stay in our own bubbles. So you may talk to more liberal people, and we may have different ideas on discipline and things like that. I'm going to read a Bible verse. I was really excited about this. I haven't read a Bible verse at Oasis yet, so Twyla brought the first Bible, and maybe someone else has read a Bible verse. It's highly likely, but okay. So it says, "He who spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is careful to discipline him." It's Proverbs 13:24. So, what's a good secular perspective on when it comes to children and discipline? Well, by golly, we have a lot of science now. We've been able to start studying different approaches, what may be best, what doesn't really work well. And at least when it comes to spanking, we've kind of realized that not only is it just generally not all that effective, you may see a result immediately because it's so shocking for the kid, but long term, it's just not effective, and it also could be very counterproductive. And I'm just gonna leave that there. But when it comes to deciding how we discipline our children, let's use the scientific method. So, those who have kind of tested different things, and then also negotiate that with your partner or your spouse, whoever that is. It should be decided between the two of you how that looks. Now, I know I've railed on a lot of the things that we tend to see that are considered the traditional family values. We have some things in common for sure. The reasons why I became a Christian were a lot of these elements. Of course, there might be some definition differences, especially when it comes to wisdom and knowledge. There's a lot of limits on what Christians, I think, would see. Wisdom and knowledge comes through God and the Bible, which is not a good filter. But love and compassion, we can give, but we agree. Justice, kindness, respect, truthfulness, hope, courage, patience, self-control, faithfulness, probably not. But, and then even forgiveness. I could do a whole talk on forgiveness. I think forgiveness is totally misunderstood. I think it can be not an effective coping strategy when it comes to challenges in life and dealing with people. But for another time. I think we have a lot in common, and I think we should recognize this. And I hope my children, will learn to be loving and compassionate, to respect one another, to be honest, to seek justice and kindness. I think there's a lot of really wonderful, wonderful things there, and things I don't have time to go into. So, There's probably some other things that I think a lot of us would add to what are our secular family lists. What would we add to that? And one thing that I didn't see a lot of, they mentioned wisdom and knowledge here, but I think one of the things for myself, and I only speak for myself, is that education and the ability to have free inquiry and ask questions is is a huge value in my family. I want my kids to be able to seek knowledge, ask questions, and feel safe, especially at home. Because although our schools are set up to be safe like that, you still have social dynamics and social pressures where they may not feel like venturing into. But first and foremost, they have to know that it's okay to ask questions of things that sometimes might be controversial or uncomfortable to them. And I hope that Oasis is another place where they feel like they can come and maybe find other adults if they don't feel comfortable coming to me, or have other like-minded, parents who can answer those questions as well. I think we model a lot of these values as well, the ones that we think are important to us and we want. Obviously, we learn socially, actually, so how we become moral people is, how we become moral people without Bible or God, we tend to kind of learn it socially. We do have social constructs that we live within that teach us it's not nice to kill someone. We should be honest. We don't steal, things like that. One way is through social constructs. Another thing that I think is a really good starting place, why not our Oasis values? So I think the first three are honestly the best when it comes to talking about family values, but I want my children to know that people are more important than beliefs. So first and foremost, that individual, that human being is more important to me than however their synapses fire, whatever belief system they carry. And diversity is to be embraced and celebrated, not something to be afraid of. We do all have beliefs, although I know we call them non-believers. We all have beliefs. I fully recognize that. That is not saying this. It's like a new misconception that I keep hearing. Actually, Mike Gauss will be talking more about that at the end of August. He's coming up to talk about that specifically. Reality is known through reason. By golly, I want my kids to know that that's how we form reality. It's like, test things. Research, we want to know through reason. That's how, reality is known. Meaning comes from making a difference. It's one way, that we can find meaning in our lives, and it's one very big way that we can add meaning to our lives is by making a difference. And making a difference doesn't have to mean helping or serving or volunteering. It could be, something that you're passionate about, connecting with another kid, all kinds of stuff. And the other two I think are just as important. It's just a little more complicated if I were to delve into that. So where I want to leave the conversation today is at a conversation point. I think that as secular individuals, it's time that we actually start talking about this stuff, because that next generation, I think, has a lot of potential to actually do a lot of great for the world. We talk a lot about climate concerns. Well, what are we doing to help them understand? This is a pretty big, if we think it's a big deal, how do we educate them on that? Let them ask those questions and help them realize on their own that maybe that is something they're passionate about. Why not, help guide, why can't the Oasis values maybe actually rewrite? Why can't we reclaim what family values are in our country? I think we can, and it starts in communities like this. Our ability to influence culture, if we better organize ourselves and connect with one another, is so much more profound and so much more potential than if we just do nothing, which is kind of where a lot of us have been for a while since if you left church, for sure. So I challenge you today, it's time that as a secular community, individuals and families, that we reclaim and redefine these family values. There's no reason why the U.S. should run with these values being, primarily, and we have the good ones, but all the other ones, why can't we rewrite and reclaim those? And I think we can, and I think through Oasis is one place where we can definitely start that. And I will probably venture back into some of this some other time. And we don't have time for questions. So that worked out well. All right, so that's all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.